Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting week in the Absent Minded podcast. This is week June 24th, Monday, and I am joined by my best friends, as usual, Travis Stockton.
That's one way to read a date.
You're right. No, the week of June 24th,
Monday.
But that was my best intro though so far with that one. I like that.
Hi guys, you can see the high bar quality we're setting here at the Absent Minded podcast.
Oh, man.
good.
A
That was
number
good.
one.
Yeah, that is one way to read a date. And as usual, Andrew Crandall is also with us.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Welcome. God, you threw me my mojo off with that one. I was going so hard.
It's the ramen, man. We're running high on the ramen fumes.
I didn't eat-
I don't know
I
about you
didn't
guys
eat.
though. After like the ramen,
You're on curry
like,
high.
I'm feeling a little hot.
So good. It was a little warm when we walked in
high,
here, honestly.
for sure.
Yeah.
You get a hot bowl with soup in you and you're steaming in your face,
Yeah, I'm gonna start beating up over here.
or a bowl and a half.
Yeah, it was
For
more
some
like
of us.
a bowl and a half.
Hey, it was more like a bowl and a
two
quarter,
bowls
all
for
right?
some of us.
I didn't have two bowls.
That's what he was just talking
You
about.
attempt-
Slowed down.
you
I couldn't-
attempted.
I made a judgment call and decided I couldn't finish that second bowl.
I don't know where to go from here, honestly. With that, you kind of put me in a dead halt there.
We can go ahead and do the housekeeping.
Yeah.
man.
So
It's a
first
good
off, I
place
want
to
to start off by just saying, wait, did you want me to bring up the apology first, or is that for later? I'm
That's
sorry.
later.
That's for.
The document's supposed to make things easier. Maybe we need to throw out the document. The document
throw
seems
out-
to create
Just throw
confusion
out
every week.
the whole shebang. No, guys. Okay, so we're officially live. We are on the big boys, the Spotify. Links in the description below. We're finally got the first two published episodes, and the third one is
out now, I believe.
Third
already.
one's also up.
yeah. The
we're-
third one's also okay.
we're
That's
officially
my,
on
that's my
schedule with
bad. Yeah, so
episode
we are
3.
on schedule. The next one will release every Friday for
morning.
Podcast Friday, and hopefully we'll keep that going unless something irregular happens or just
My
Andrew
goal
gets shot in the leg or something.
is to never miss an episode.
Yeah,
That's a good
That's
goal.
a good goal
That's
to have.
my
Yeah,
goal.
Good goal to
exactly.
set. Yeah, I'm okay.
Very
with
practical.
Yeah,
that. Very practical.
which means I got to think about holidays because we're gonna have a couple episodes in the can every once in a while.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
4th of
Didn't think
July is
about that.
coming up. Also, my birthday's after
That's not
that.
a real holiday. That's an excuse to
holiday
blow
for
shit up.
me. I'm gonna plug our YouTube channel. I'm not gonna plug like a link to it or like an actual.
We won't tell you where to find it.
Yeah.
but it's out
But
there.
if you follow us
Good
on the
luck.
regular places, there should probably be a way for you to find us on YouTube.
yeah, we don't have the fancy link right now because we don't have enough subscribers to have like a channel name.
But I'm sure if you just searched "Absent Minded" on YouTube, we'd probably pop.
Yeah, you do.
We might.
So that's the easiest way to catch us on there. So if you wouldn't mind following us on all the big platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram especially. I know the guys really like to push that one because they like to do that one because it's the easiest probably.
It's way easier.
Yeah. Okay. Well, easy.
I mean,
is-
it's
People are
better
so
than,
much nicer on Instagram.
you know,
Better than shouting at
put in the hard
IGN all
work,
day.
get the biggest reward.
Like
That's
if
all I'm
Drew
saying.
posted on Instagram a comment on a picture I took, and even though he was being a jerk, it was the jerk in like the nicest way possible.
It was. It was a great tree. I just want to say that.
Yeah,
it was
see,
a
it was
beautiful tree.
On Twitter,
That's a
it would
good
have just
tree.
been like something way more horrific. Came
Yeah,
out of your
exactly,
mouth. Like,
man.
God,
I
this
mean-
fucking idiot and his stupid tree pictures.
I mean, that's like literally like verbatim from
I'm
my
sure
brain.
Twitter gets a lot
Travis.
worse. I'm sure something about what I posted was a dumb liberal tree.
So hopefully we'll have more posts coming on all those big platforms for the social medias and follow us there and be sure to listen to us every week on us. I would say Spotify is probably your best bet if you have Spotify. I know I do.
Use
But-
what you're comfortable with.
Yeah, use what you call it. I
'Cause
know
the
we're-
other ones are Radio Public. We're on Breaker. We're on Google Podcasts.
Google Podcasts. That's
Soon
a
to
big
be
one.
on iHeartRadio and iTunes eventually.
Yeah, hopefully that
Hopefully in,
happens
like, the next
sometime
15
this
years.
week.
Yeah.
Hopefully not quite that long. But
And then always, our Anchor website, which is I think just absentminded.
anchor.fm/absentminded. And of course, if you have a certain platform or program that we haven't ever heard of that you like a whole lot,
Shout out at us
Yeah,
and
let
we'll
us
get
know.
on
We'll
it.
do our best to put it out there for you and so you can listen to it. I guess I do want to apologize now to Travis about.
are we getting into corrections?
I mean, that's the
Yeah.
next. That's
that's
the
a rhetorical
next-
question. I was clarifying
That's
for
the next. I mean,
for
you
the
said
listeners.
You said follow the doc. I'm not gonna read them the docket. You can't just read it.
I like to be open and transparent
I don't.
with our listeners.
No, I like them to know that.
Should they know that there's a photo out there of you nude with a Dark Souls book in
They
front of
can know
your
that.
in
It's
front
the
of your naughty
greatest
bits?
They can know that.
photo that's ever been on
They
the
may
internet.
not see it.
Coming to
but
a
they can know
Subscribe
it.
on Patreon.
calendar.
It'll be our next reward.
We don't have a Patreon.
But maybe
Yes.
this is how people are going to hear about this
Yes.
photo. They're going to know it's out there. They're going to beg us to
If
start
you
a
want,
Patreon.
if you want a scantily
That should be our
clad
first piece of merch.
photo of me with a Dark Souls book.
Ooh, like a pair of boxers.
Oh my god!
With a pair of boxers with just Ethan on the front.
I want
No, but instead of his face, it's just the absent-minded logo.
Or the Dark Souls book.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
just a print of Dark Souls book on your boxers or
if you want
panties.
that photo, just make sure you tell us in the comments, or if any way you can email us. Sure, and maybe I'll find a way to get that photo out if it's the demand is high enough.
Oh, it's high. It's high.
But yeah, so what did you have to say to me, Ethan?
It was for the order of things that came out in the Microsoft E3 presentation, in which I argued that Halo was not, in fact, the last item or last thing shown in there.
And that out of the rest of my immaculate document, somehow that was the only thing that was presented out of order.
I'm sure many of my other things were out of order. And like we said, it's okay to make mistakes. That's how you learn.
Well, that's what you said. None
It
of
is
us have
what- I
ever
did
said
say
that.
It is what I said. Tape.
Apology accepted.
It was at the end,
Five
and I'm
games, I
sorry.
guess.
So you're right, as usual.
But speaking about Halo Infinite, I too was wrong. That was in fact not a CGI trailer. I had a stick up my ass about all the CGI trailers that we got during
There's a lot of
E3
them.
this year. There was a lot of them. That one was in fact rendered in real time on some sort of engine,
It's the engine
on some
they're
sort of
using
hardware.
for-
It's not necessarily on the Xbox One X or anything like that, but it was
But that's all
not a
in-game, man.
CGI.
That's
yeah.
impressive.
Well, in engine.
In engine, excuse me. Thank you.
Yeah. It's not in game until I got it in my fucking hands.
Right, right.
And I'm hitting the button and doing my melee attacks and
Yeah.
dual wielding my pistols.
Doing your BXRs.
What's this next point?
So this is something, Digital Foundry is a channel that I follow a lot on YouTube. They're
Sure.
a section of Eurogamer, and they do all of the nerdy tech breakdowns that are right up my alley. Like talking about like comparing same game running on different platforms and stuff. They did a really good breakdown of the Avengers trailer, which was the other one that we all had some harsh words for.
Well, I was kind of excited for it, but you kind of shit all over that during that episode.
Yeah, well, again, that was one of those things, I think, because when we saw the press conferences, we're getting like really compressed streams. They were able to put up their video where they had like the uncompressed assets that they send out to the press and did more of a breakdown of all the technologies that are being used in this.
Yeah.
And I think as an overall package, we all might have been too harsh on the way the game looks visually. Well, me especially. I'm
Yeah,
not going to say
I
you
mean,
all. I'm the one apologizing here. But that was just something I wanted to throw out there because it is far out. There's a lot of people working on it. Nothing's done.
I don't know, but
I
whenever
feel bad that I was so negative on it.
I mean, not to talk about like the graphics, to change the topic off the graphics, but whenever I was listening to Kind of Funny Games Daily, like the week after, and listening to Tim talk about the behind closed door demo that they did
Yeah.
for the press people, it just didn't sound good, man.
Sure.
Like,
Gameplay wise, we still don't know enough about the
It's
game.
true.
We haven't seen too much.
yeah, but even before we saw the trailer, before it was announced, and I told you I was excited before, you were like, "Fuck this games of a service." As
We
a
know
service
that's what I'm
bullshit.
saying. Sorry
Travis is
for
quick.
it.
Yeah, no.
It's quick sometimes.
Well, I was
with
kind of
the
doubtful of it at
judgments.
first, but then listening to Tim talk about it and hearing that's kind of how it was, it's kind of bumming me out because I was hoping for something more like we all were, like a story, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. I hope it's good when it comes out. I hope I'm wrong.
I think hopes are high, and that's the problem.
Yeah. There's a high bar to meet.
Sure.
Hopefully they do. Got a few interesting things today. The first one we've got is Breath of the Wild is getting a sequel because the team had too many DLC ideas.
Now, is this going to be an actual Breath of the Wild sequel, or is this going to be Breath of the Wild 1.5?
It's going to be a sequel.
It seems like it's going to be a sequel
I know
because
it's going to actually be a sequel, but is it going to just feel like
Well,
Breath of
from
the Wild
what I've heard,
1.5? Which isn't necessarily a bad thing.
What I heard is that the Breath of the Wild 2 or whatever they're going to call it is still going to use the same map from Breath of the Wild 1. So I'm sure there's going to be some changes after you defeated
Calamity
Ganon. Yes, thank you. I'm sure there's going to be some changes. Some things are going to flourish, you know, and then whenever the hand gets off his body or whatever, I bet you there'll be some world-changing effects in there. Yeah, I'm excited. Breath of the Wild was the first Legend of Zelda game I ever beat. And
Really?
because I tried playing Ocarina of Time several times throughout the years, and it's just never really, it's never really clicked with me.
Oof.
I never picked up Majora's
Sorry to
Mask.
say that.
The first one I did try and play that I got further in was Wind Waker.
Waker's so good.
Yeah, man, I still like the art style of Wind Waker.
I've even beaten some of the Game Boy or DS, whatever.
Yeah, like
versions
Four
of-
Swords or whatever.
Four Swords. Minish Cap, I really liked.
I had Minish Cap.
Phantom
for
Hourglass
DS.
was cool.
Uh-huh.
There's one where he's a train engineer or
Yeah,
something.
I thought that was Phantom Hourglass.
No, I think it's
No, that's Spirit Track.
Spirit Tracks.
Yeah.
Oh,
it
isn't that the one that gets a lot of shit in the community?
It doesn't
I think
look good.
so, yeah.
It does
Okay.
not look good.
Well, to answer some of y'all's questions, we actually had a quote here from the producer on the Zelda series. I'm going to butcher the name. I apologize. I believe it's E.G. Aonuma. But Jason Schreier asked him, what made you and the team decide to make a sequel to Breath of the Wild as opposed to a new Zelda game? And he replied, when we released the DLC for Breath of the Wild, we realized that this is a great way to add more elements to the same world. But when it came down to technical things, DLC is pretty much data. You're adding data to a pre-existing title. And so when we wanted to add bigger changes, DLC is not enough. And that's why we thought maybe a sequel would be a good fit. And then Schreier asked again, was this sequel originally planned as DLC? And Aonuma replied, initially we were thinking of just DLC ideas, but then we had a lot of ideas and we said, this is too many ideas. Let's just make one new game and start from scratch.
So it sounds like there'll be some definite changes and improvements, hopefully.
Yeah.
Whether you describe it as a 1.5 or a 2, I think that's always up for debate.
But that sounds like their original purpose for it seems more like than just a 1.5. It seems more like they're trying to make something
A full-blown sequel. Yeah.
better. Yeah.
Didn't Corey
Improve on
Balrog
it.
kind of
Barlog.
Thank you.
Balrog is the Street Fighter character.
Yes.
Oh, I thought it was the
I thought it was the monster from
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings. Yeah.
I fucked that up.
yeah.
I think
Actually,
you're
no,
right.
No, actually, I think they're the same name.
It might be.
I think they're the same.
I'm bad with Street Fighter.
But yeah, Corey Barlog, he said, I believe when questioned if there was going to be DLC for God of War, he kind of said the same thing. You're like, yeah, we had ideas, but they were just too grandiose to put into a single DLC.
Yeah, and that was kind of an issue too. We saw how it fleshes out when the team doesn't come to terms with that before they're too far into production with the Uncharted 4
Lost Legacy.
quote unquote DLC,
Right.
Lost Legacy, yeah, where that was supposed to be a smaller thing, and then eventually it evolved into what essentially became a full blown sequel as
Is
far
it
as
as
the
long
amount of
as
content.
4?
It's maybe an hour or two shorter.
Okay.
It's not quite as much of exploration just because you're big open area.
Yeah.
And that game is a bit smaller compared to
Right.
what is in 4. But yeah, it's a full blown campaign. And that was kind of an issue they had where it was hard to market it that way. You got plenty of people that like wouldn't necessarily pick that up if they didn't already own Uncharted 4, or maybe they owned Uncharted 4 on like a disc and then sold it in. And so like, oh, well, I'm not going to buy the DLC, not knowing it was a standalone thing. I don't think it was communicated quite enough that it was a full blown new title and not just an add-on. Because there's plenty of people out there who are just like, I don't buy DLC at all.
Right.
You know, they're just the
Very
very
principle of the
very,
thing.
yeah, very cynical about it. And there's like, it should have been in the main game, blah, blah, blah. There's definitely a fence you have to straddle at that point, and whether or not you decide you had to go this route and
I don't like
just make an
that.
actual sin.
I don't like
I
that.
couldn't think of what I wanted to say. What a line to straddle?
did you just say? A
Do you
fence
straddle
to
a line?
straddle?
Because
A
I'm
line
thinking
to toe?
you're on two sides of a fence, a line to toe.
But why would you ever straddle a fence?
I like straddling.
Ooh.
What's wrong with a straddle?
I don't like that statement. I don't like that statement at all.
What's wrong with a good straddle?
Scratch that. I like both those.
Can someone
statements.
call Chris Hansen? Jesus.
What?
That's a little much. I don't know about that.
I was talking about horseback riding.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were talking about fence riding.
Ride a fence, ride a horse. I don't like where y'all's head is at today. I can't take y'all out for ramen
All I
before the
said was I
podcast
didn't like
anymore.
that expression.
Anyway,
That's all I said.
next up, we got a new article from about CD Projekt Red and their Witcher 3 Switch port that they've got coming out. That was kind of shocking to me. Like you'd heard
really
rumors
was.
about this, and it's
I never
actually
heard rumors,
happening.
like when they ever got denounced in the direct, I was like, what?
I'd heard little bits and things, like
Really?
little leaks and posts on the old reset era and
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Heard your little rumblings and ramblings.
Yeah, it's just the kind of thing where you read it and you're like, fuck you. There's no way The Witcher 3 is going to be ported to Switch.
it's true.
And then
man.
they did it.
Is it going to be like full like blood and wine?
Yeah, so this is the producer, I believe it was, that they spoke to at CD Projekt Red, essentially said that it's the full game. It comes with all the DLC, all the latest updates. It's going to have the 2 control modes and stuff. And that the biggest
You know,
compromises that
It's
they
just
had to make for the
graphical
game.
quality and like draw distance, right?
Well,
Pretty much.
even that, when you're looking at it on a smaller screen, obviously when it's running on your TV,
You can
you're
see,
going to notice
yeah,
the difference
right.
between running it on your Switch at 720p versus like the 4K patch with HDR on your Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
It's mostly just draw distance and a little bit of like the level of detail throughout the world and stuff. But they said the biggest restraint for them was just redoing the UI to be compatible
Oh,
for the
yeah,
Switch
I
version
guess that
because
would
of
be
the
true.
resolutions being that small. Obviously, you got like the things up in the corner, like the quests that you're on
Your
and stuff.
HUD and stuff.
A lot of the text would obviously be way too small, shrinking the resolution that way.
Wow.
So they probably had to do a few different things to get the mini map looking right, but also not cluttering your screen too much. It remains to be seen what the real performance looks like and stuff. Obviously, this is still a little ways out.
What's the trailer like in comparison to what the actual release is going to be like?
It's something they couldn't really test a whole lot because I know like Digital Foundry, they wanted to look at it, but they never got a 60 FPS feed.
Yeah, because what we've been shown, what little it was.
It looked a little juddery.
Yeah.
Little juddery, obviously lower resolution than the other
CD
stuff.
Projekt Red confirmed that it's going to run at 60 or?
No, when I say
asked you
60,
about
I mean
this,
that they still send out 60 hertz feeds to the press because the tools that like Digital Foundry uses, they can only calculate the frames if it's from a 60 FPS video because they count how many like duplicate frames there are to work out what the actual average frame rate is. But this was when they only sent out 30 FPS feeds, so they couldn't run their tool on it. But you can see even when watching it that there's a couple of frame drops.
It's like when they first announced Ultimate Alliance 3 and there was some real bad frame drops.
Yeah. And it's the same with Link's Awakening right now. That remake indoors, it's running at a uncapped frame rate and it happens to hit 60, but because of the vertical sync that they're using to make sure there's no screen tearing and stuff, when you get outdoors and especially around like a lot of the grassy areas, the frame rate could drop very visually. But it's a Nintendo game. You're not worried about that not getting tweaked up by launch. But for something like The Witcher 3, they've probably had to cut as deep as possible to like still have it be recognizable and to get it to run on this thing. So it's incredibly impressive that they're even doing it at all. And the producer at CD Projekt obviously said that they were very proud of what they were able to accomplish with this. Of course, he's not going to say the game looks like shit. We did our best. Yeah, the fact that it's running at all, that's very cool. And yeah, if you haven't played The Witcher 3 before and you want like a big ass portable RPG to play, like that's going to be a
perfect time.
Great time to play that.
That's a great game.
Next up, a little sad piece of news. Blue Point Games' co-founder Andy O'Neill dies at 47. Blue Point Games, of course, are a classically PlayStation exclusive second-party studio. They've been doing a lot of the remakes and stuff for the PS4 lately, as far as like the Uncharted collection was by them. More famously and more recently is the Shadow of the Colossus remake. Blue Point in the studio behind that
running around.
Yeah, that port and that remake. But just thought this was sad. Blue Point is obviously a very important studio for PlayStation, and this guy has been in the industry for quite a while. I know part of his resume was he was at Acclaim in the 90s and worked on Turok Rage Wars and Turok Shadow of Oblivion. I'm a big fan of the old Turok games. And he was also at Retro Studios and was the technical lead on the first two Metroid Prime games.
For the GameCube?
Yeah, and also the principal engineer on Metroid Prime 3.
Dude, Metroid Prime.
So this guy definitely had some pedigree behind him. Blue Point's a great studio. Retro's a great studio. Just thought that was sad and worth bringing up. On to something a little bit lighter, though. If you're a Monster Hunter World fan, by the time this episode goes live, you will be able to download the Iceborne beta on PS4. And that beta is going to run from June 28th to June 30th.
And even I can play this.
Yeah, you can play this. You don't have to have PS Plus. You don't have to have owned Monster Hunter World already. It's a standalone DLC, at least for this beta. When the game actually comes out, you'll need to have the base game. But for this beta, if you've never played Monster Hunter World or thought the Iceborne DLC looked cool and you want to know more about this game, this will be a great time to jump into that, demo it out for a little bit. You'll have all weekend to play that. And of course, again, this one does not require PS Plus. So even if you aren't paying for that for online play, you can still access this beta and do the online functionality for that.
For all you really gamers on a budget.
Yeah. Next up, we got Cyberpunk 2077's E3 2019 demo will be made available to the public at PAX West in August. This is from Colin Stevens at IGN. I've never been to PAX West or
but
East.
Now I want to go.
Or South.
Yeah,
I would
so
love
we would go to PAX
to
South.
go. Yeah, that would be fucking awesome.
Oh, yeah.
We definitely should.
That's a playable demo that'll be on the show floor for everybody. This is not just one where you get to go and see the producer play it. So if you want to get your first taste and you are on the West Coast, like all of our listeners are probably because we're recording in Houston. Yeah, that'll be the first chance to do that. It'll probably means it's getting pretty ready for prime time. What was the release date for this again? Is this another one that's coming out in February or March?
Third?
March.
That's Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I think you're right, yeah.
Yeah, but that's awesome. Glad to hear the game's
really
going so
excited
well that they can already have a playable demo like that on the show floor.
Definitely. Another little thing for Cyberpunk. It's been announced that the character creation will let you make like transgender, non-binary characters and let you to have, really customize your own voice. So really shout out to Cyberpunk 2077 and CD Projekt Red for being inclusive.
That's something that's almost like required though.
Yeah,
for
I feel
a
like
Cyberpunk
that was,
kind of
I
game.
expected that from them.
Yeah, so did I.
It'd be like
but
playing
still,
a Ghost
I thought
in
it
the
was
Shell
cool.
game, and they're like, "Oh, these are the only robots you can use. This is the only kind of modification you can have." Everything about that game is looking like it's going to be incredibly expansive and
Keanu
customizable
Reeves, man.
and awesome. We were talking about it in the car, actually. I hope it's closer to a full-blown immersive sim kind of game, like a System Shock or a Deus Ex, than it is just basic open world RPG, kind of like The Witcher. We'll see
They will have the
Soon,
best
though.
of both worlds.
Maybe.
I think so, because I wouldn't want a total sim. I would still kind of
I don't mean sim as in like a full, like immersive sims
not like
are
Star Citizen or
no,
anything
no.
like that.
Immersive sim is a style of game. It's those games that like, oh, you can go out there and do anything. Immersive sims, like you have full control of what's going on. If you're talking to somebody in a quest dialogue or something and you don't like the way he's looking at your character, you could just immediately pull out your gun or like in that dude and not have to finish out that quest, and it's not going to break anything. You can, like, immersive sims are just very...
New Vegas had a lot of that.
Yeah, there's, like I said, System Shock and Deus Ex are probably the closest analogs to it, especially with the whole cyberpunk aspect of it.
I need to go back and play, like, that latest Deus Ex again, because, yeah, from what you've always talked about
Mankind
those
Divide
games,
is so good.
Yeah, I need to give that game a proper
It's a little
playthrough.
short, but yeah, the city of Prague, the way they do it in that game, I imagine that's what Cyberpunk's going to be like, except just...
way
times
bigger.
20,
Yeah.
like as far as the scale and the size of the city and everything.
I just wanted to be like basically just Blade Runner, the video game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Blade Runner is very cyberpunk. Next up, we got a story over here from GameSpot. We got Jeremy Winslow letting us know that Kaz Hirai has officially retired from Sony and PlayStation. His retirement was announced back in February 2018 and said that he would be stepping down on June 18th and in the future just being as like an advisor on the board for them. But
What was his role at Sony again? Was
he was the CEO.
Do we have our own like American branch of Sony or?
We do, yeah.
Okay,
as
that's what I
CEA,
thought.
so Sony Computer Entertainment America, and that's actually where their headquarters is now.
Yeah, that's what I was
they recently moved headquarters over to
Really?
California.
So
yeah.
this is their CEO over in Japan, I would assume that.
Well, this was the CEO for all of Sony. For a
gotcha,
long
gotcha,
time,
gotcha.
he was the head
Yeah.
of PlayStation. Like during the PS3 era, he was the guy that came out on stage and said $599 US, and everyone was like, "Oh no!"
It's just like when Apple released a stand for $1,000 and that visible, just like, oh.
Essentially, since Ken Kutaragi stepped down as the head of PlayStation, Kaz stepped in. He was pretty much the face of PlayStation all throughout the PS3 and the beginnings of the PS4 era. So he will certainly be missed.
For sure.
Had a lot of cool stuff happen at PlayStation while he was part
End
of
of
that.
Have they
Era.
announced his replacement?
Yes, he's already been doing the job for a little while. John Codera.
Nice.
But actually, he is also retired. Or he's not retiring. He's changing positions. I won't get too into that. He was originally the head of network operations for Sony Computer Entertainment. So, like, one of the guys that was like really like designed the PlayStation Network and everything, and had most recently like he spearheaded the whole operation of getting us name changes finally on PlayStation.
dope.
I did that, by the way.
He's been working towards the refund policy and stuff that's coming out soon.
Ooh. Is there a refund policy going to be what? Like kind of like Steam's where
Just
if you
basically, if
only
you
play
download something but haven't started it, that you would be able to get a refund through.
Oh, that's
but
nice.
if you
Yeah.
once you immediately start it,
If you
can't
played
go-
it all, then it's locked. That license is locked to your account. They won't do
I was gonna
refunds
say because
anymore.
like on Steam, like if you play like
I think
less
it's
than
something
2
that's like
hours,
less than 2 hours, but
yeah.
also you can within 24 hours or something you
Something
can
like
do.
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hopefully they get more flexible. But anyway, I know he's also leaving now just because he pretty much said he wanted to take over a different role in the company because he was kind of just interim CEO. That was always his plan to help Kaz step out and move towards
it an
retirement
easy
as quickly as he
transition.
could. Yeah. While also making sure that the ship stayed righted while the official CEO was being chosen. Finally, our last news story. Some of you might have already heard about this one. EA's response during a UK hearing to their parliament over loot box mechanics in video games was essentially, actually, I'm not gonna essentially. I
It
got
might
the
have not
article pulled up.
been heard much over here.
I'll give you the actual quote.
but it was more of a bigger deal over there just because that's where it happened.
Well, this will presumably be their argument if anything like that happens to come up in
is
our
true.
Congress. First, we don't call them loot boxes. We look at them as surprise mechanics, Hopkins explained.
Surprise.
If you go to a store that sells a lot of toys and you do a search for surprise toys, what you'll find is that this is something people enjoy. They enjoy surprises. And then, quote, surprises have been around for years, whether it's Kinder Eggs or Hatchimals or LOL surprise, end quote.
I wonder how many people on their legal team it took to come up with that.
I know, yeah, right? That's about as PR speak as your
Some
lawyer
guy was in
can
a
get.
toy store and just was like, "What's a surprise toy?"
Yeah.
Right?
Oh my god.
So we actually haven't really talked a whole lot about how we each feel about loot boxes in general. I think we kind of touched on off the podcast, at least between one of you two guys. I could see an argument for why they're not necessarily gambling, just because, and especially with regards to the games that EA is talking to Parliament about over in the UK, nothing that you get from these boxes, even if the prizes are random and you don't know what you're going to get out of them, whether it's the Star Wars Battlefront 2 cards or whatever, or I think FIFA Ultimate Team is probably the biggest moneymaker at EA, since it's something that when you get these things out of this loot box or whatever you're buying, they don't have any monetary value after you've opened the box, because you can't trade or sell these things on some sort of marketplace after the fact. Like if you go to a casino and you play the slot machines and you put money in and you get more money out, you can then, of course, take that money out of the casino and you can go buy goods and services.
But what happens when you put that quarter in and you get nothing?
Well, that's the gambling aspect. But you never get nothing from a loot box. And also a lot of the regulations that some of these games have been forced to do
sometimes
in China is that they have to put the odds on them now, where they tell you exactly what you might be getting out of these things as far as the percentages
I think that's a good idea.
of different rarities and items.
Well, Apex does it. Apex is very full disclosure.
Yeah, Apex does have a good way of doing it. You have to actually look for it, but
it's on the purchased ones that you actually see it. But
and that's the thing too, though, is I would even say that that's nice, but the people that were buying those loot boxes, they don't give a shit what the percentages are. There's no financially conservative buyer that thought, oh shit, well now that I see the actual chance, now I know I just need to buy 20 of these fucking boxes and I'll probably get at least one of the things I want. No, there's still people that like they're going to buy that thing regardless.
Right.
And then my other argument centers around one of the bigger talking points is that these are games that kids can play and that kids can be making these purchases. And at that point, I have to say EA is not the problem there. If you have a child that has access to a credit card and they're using a service on a system that you had to buy for them because your kid does not have a full-time job going out and buying this PlayStation 4 and then hooking up a credit card to it and paying that bill every month, parent your kids is all I'm saying. And not everyone's putting that complaint out there. I've just seen that mentioned a lot that, oh, well, kids have access to these games. That's not like if you walked into a store and tried to buy cigarettes at age 13, the person selling you the cigarettes is the one who's held it accountable.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Marlboro does not get sued because your 13-year-old was able to go buy cigarettes at Stop and Go. The cashier gets fined.
Is responsible. Yeah, you're right.
And obviously, okay, well, does that mean it's something that Sony needs to regulate? Well, they do, because they have a sign-up age requirement that you have to lie to them and tell you you're a different age to set up a master account to start purchasing things on PlayStation Network, or you're a sub account or a child account to a parent account, which also means that a parent had to set up an account and then set up an account for their child. And at that point, they're saying, cool, I'm monitoring what my child is doing on this PlayStation or this Xbox or whatever. So yeah, eventually it is like your parents have to be watching your kids. If you see them spend $50 that you didn't say they could spend, don't ignore that. Don't ground them.
Sneaky kid.
Take the fucking credit card off the account, cut it up, get a new one from your bank, and then explain to your child that stealing is wrong and we can't do this anymore without authorization from me, the parent. And I don't think EA should be held accountable necessarily for something like that in the event that they do decide that this constitutes gambling. So those are my main two feelings. Maybe you guys have different thoughts on it.
The parent's job is somewhere in there. It's not my place to say, I guess. I don't really care. But the one thing I will say is that gambling, I would say it is gambling because they do have value after you open them. It even places value on them, whether it's common, not common, rare, whatever. Like those are values in it themselves, whether they're not worth any actual money to another person that you can sell them to, whatever. You paid money to get that.
So if the chances aren't listed on the item before you buy it, if they are now listed, do you consider it gambling even if you know exactly what might be in the box in your surprise mechanic?
You're just more aware of what you're getting.
But you still consider it gambling on some level.
Because it is somewhat a gamble. I mean, you're not guaranteed to get what you want.
Gambling if you go to the dollar store and get one of those brown bags of toys? They used to have those when I was a kid. Maybe they don't do them anymore. Maybe someone sued the government and said this is gambling.
I would
say it's a male toy or girl toy bags.
That's a little bit of a gamble because when you
but you know you're buying toys.
Sure, but I mean, yeah, but that's just arguing. I guess are they good? Mm-hmm. But yeah, people want the good ones. I guess is the next step.
Are gumball machines gambling? If it's maybe a color that you want, but you don't get to pick what color it is when you put it in the quarter, or one of those little toy machines where it's like, oh, there's like 15 different toys in this collection. You do the little turn thing, and
at that point, are we just arguing the definition of gambling?
Kind of, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Because that's what they're going to have to do.
I guess, yeah, that's what
someone
they're doing.
in there they're trying to figure out. Okay, well, does this thing fit into our current definition of what gambling is? And I feel like a lot of times there's some sort of monetary value as far as what you're gaining afterwards. And I don't think a cosmetic in a game necessarily holds an inherent monetary value because you're buying the service of the box. I almost would argue that the loot box itself is not a good. It's a service.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is though, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's tied to this other product. It's not something that you can take out of the game, and that's one thing where I would say an example that I would constitute as gambling is the Steam trading cards on Steam's marketplace. Have you seen these, Drew?
I know that I unlock them from time to time, but I've not looked into what they are at all.
Yeah, so if you basically, for people that don't know, on Steam, every game has a page with the description of the game telling you, oh, it's one player or it's up to 4 players or whatever. This game has achievements you can unlock while you play it. And a very popular feature, quote unquote, to have on there is trading cards. And the way these trading cards work is
we have.
I think you and I talked about it.
Yeah, and I was like, what?
But the way these cards work is that you play the game, and after an indeterminate amount of time, you unlock a trading card from that game. In most games, depending on the cost or the length of the game, you get between 4 to 5 cards that you can unlock at random, and sometimes you get duplicates. Sometimes you get a foil. It works a lot like a trading card game.
Trading card games gambling,
but the full set is always like somewhere around 7 to 9 cards.
Buying those booster packs gambling,
so you can't get a full set unless you go onto the Steam marketplace and find and buy cards that other people are putting up for sale.
You said you can't get a full set.
You cannot get a full set just by playing the game because there's a maximum, like I said, but depending on the game, of 3 to 5 cards that you can unlock. But the full set is usually 7 to 9 cards.
Oh,
and then when you get the set, you can form a badge.
Yes,
that you can put on your profile.
Oh, okay.
And that to me sounds more like gambling. Yeah, it's bragging rights, but there is an actual monetary value.
Right.
Some of the cards, the games that have been out for forever, like obviously if 3 million people play a big game.
And you're focusing a lot on the resellability of the thing that you're getting.
Because what we consider gambling now has to do with money, and it's the receiving and losing of money.
But that's one example of gambling. You could argue that there's many examples of gambling.
You could. Which ones are regulated by the government that say you have to be 18 or older? That's what I'm asking.
But you can make new regulations to with the times. That's what I'm saying.
But is it necessary?
I think a little bit of it is because
the video game industry does not want people coming in and regulating them and telling them what they can and cannot do.
And I don't want them necessarily to, because of that, sometimes can ruin the heart and soul of things. But
I just don't think we're at a point where we need government regulation.
If it's causing an abnormal addiction, in some cases, I think maybe it should be looked at.
We need some studies.
Exactly.
I think
it should be looked
I think
into.
It's too soon to jump on the outrage train and decide that EA, who does a lot of shitty things, and I hate loot boxes and stuff, but is it really something that the government has to step in and say, oh, even these other games that maybe are doing it the right way, now that it's a loot box, you can't have it anymore.
Yeah.
And what other way are they going to have to develop to replace that revenue stream? Because I guarantee you, that's the reason your games are still $60 a piece. Games have not gotten more expensive in almost 2 decades at the start of the PlayStation 1 and the PS2 generation, because when cartridges were people were paying $90 fucking for Pokemon Stadium at launch.
I think I did
on
that.
the N64.
Because I got the little
DLC
games have been $60
and microtransactions are the reason we haven't gotten.
Yeah. Games are only getting more and more expensive to make. You think EA is selling that game for $60 out of the kindness of its heart? No, they're knowing that someone's going to pay fucking $2,000 on FIFA Ultimate Team every fucking year. And that's probably on the low end of these people.
They make the most money from the smallest amount of people. I think that's
exactly. Yeah. We know that there's the whales out there that are the ones that are spending the most money, but it's those people that are buying, what's fucking 2,000 divided by 60? That's how many extra copies of this game they're funding essentially. And if that money's not coming in anymore, they're going to have to figure out something else. And I bet the first one is, PS5 and Xbox 720 are coming out. $70 games, baby. And I bet people are going to be a lot more angry if their games start at $70 now versus the optional loot box that they don't have to buy, that they're not required to pay for.
Yeah. So I don't have a problem with loot boxes as long as they're just like cosmetic only. When Battlefront 2 launched,
If you had an Ultimate Edition and you played 3 days early and you started buying those loot boxes, you could get literally an unfair advantage.
Oh, it was
people.
ridiculous. Yeah, because I remember, I don't want to shout out the YouTuber because that video pissed me off. But yeah, I was watching his video. Yeah, he was just like, yeah, the loot boxes give you some advantage, but you basically trying to make an excuse for it.
No, any advantage is pay to win.
Yeah, exactly. It's just
obviously if you are super duper skilled, you can overcome certain advantages.
But
most people aren't that skilled. Like especially a game like Star Wars Battlefront 2, that was under every 8-year-old's
and
Christmas
especially
tree
in the
that
beginning
year.
of that game when it was really
it was
broken
real
and
bad. Yeah,
and they
where they were talking about where it was like 40 hours to unlock one character. Real bad. But also to going back to the loot box thing, I'm not really more concerned about arguing whether if it's gambling or not. I think kind of more the issue of its addictiveness. And that addictiveness with kids and everything. But again, you're right. Parenting has a lot to do with it. But
that kid cannot go out to the store and buy an iPhone XS or whatever.
What if he has a weekly allowance? That's his money to spend it on.
That's it. That's all he's got. And also, he still has to. He can't pay cash.
What if he saves it up?
He can't pay cash for that stuff.
I don't know anything about paying cash.
Who's taking him to the fucking store to go get the PlayStation Network card or the Xbox Live card to turn his $50 into? You know what my parents would have said? If that would happen,
you can buy Amazon
they'd
card
have taken the
at
fucking
Walmart.
allowance away because they're my parent and they're like, you don't get to spend your money this way. That is a facade, okay? You are still a minor. You have no possessions.
Chicken
you
soup.
have no value anymore.
Chicken Soup Parenting by Travis.
No, I'm not telling you how to raise your kids. I'm just saying you're doing it wrong if you're doing these things. And eventually you got to step in and get your shit together because this kid is going to grow up into a little fucking loot box addicted monster.
Yeah.
Doing Fortnite dances at the bar.
Flossing everywhere.
Yeah, flossing and planking and God knows what else.
But yeah, I'm done. Go ahead.
No, that's all I got. That's all I got on loot boxes.
I can't believe the news thing I put on there caused the hugest debate.
I left it off because I didn't
wow.
want to get into the loot box discussion. but
Obviously, why?
poked the bear.
Yeah, they did that like on
didn't
Games
bring
Daily
it up.
for like 3
I
weeks
had to hit
straight.
the news. It's on the news. I got to get the news.
Kinder Eggs without the chocolate.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, so let's get into the big meaty. Oh, I'm excited for this discussion, guys. If you thought our discussion about pickles and loot boxes was nuts, oh man, strap in.
Get ready for a
folks.
left turn.
Strap in. We are going to discuss Neon Genesis Evangelion and the movie, which I can't remember off the top of my head. What is the movie called?
End of Evangelion.
Which just released on Netflix earlier on this week, and I was really excited just because
Did the movie launch on Netflix as well?
both movies.
Now, first off, before we get into this discussion,
Yes.
Right.
I want to draw a line in the sand.
Okay.
Because I really want people to watch this show. And also because I know not everyone gives a shit about anime. We won't talk
Animes.
about anime too much, but this is one.
Can I get really
This is
weedy?
one that breaks out of the genre. I would say, and I'll make my case for that.
I
Further
agree
down.
with that. Definitely.
So we will have a specific portion where this beginning part we will not be talking spoilers.
Okay, we can do that.
We will not. And Ethan, I
Don't-
want you to look me in the
Don't
eye,
even.
and you understand what I mean when I say that we're
Don't
talking no spoilers.
I know what you mean.
And of
Shut
course,
up.
everybody, I edit the hell out of this show every week. So if he slips anything in there that I feel is not kosher,
Ugh.
I promise to protect you from it.
Don't censor me.
I will make a note when we start going into spoiler territory.
Yeah, that's fine. We can have
I'm
a
only
break
going
where
to
we go
say it like
spoilers.
once or twice though, because like obviously
We'll
I can't
have a
remind you the
big
whole time.
spoiler. Hey, this is spoilers.
Maybe we'll do a pregnant pause.
Yeah, well, we already did one of those.
I'll
so
play the intro song for Ava.
I don't think we can do that.
We can do it on everything but YouTube. YouTube's the only one that's going to copyright strike us.
Oh, okay.
On YouTube, you're just going to have to trust the time.
Can I
code.
sing it?
I don't know. Can you?
No.
Okay, I was
I'm
going to say
tone deaf.
that's a can you, may you
Nope.
kind
No, I
of
cannot.
question. I don't know if you can.
But so it released earlier on Netflix this week, and I
Yeah.
Travis has many copies of this. You know, Drew has seen it. I believe 3 of your copies and stuff. So
Yeah.
I was watching the Netflix versions, and I was really excited because I could binge watch them. You know, I could skip the intro if I wanted to, skip the ending. And
This is the first time it's ever been available legally to stream outside of Japan.
streaming. Yeah,
And obviously, everything that we watch these days, for the most part, is coming through some sort of streaming platform. Like
And it's
that's
just
the way that
easy.
people legally
Yeah.
consume this kind of media. And if you didn't have that, the only other way, especially in the US and in Europe, was to buy a DVD set that I think is still probably around $100, if not more. And no one's doing that, especially for a show. Netflix opens up that audience to people that are the banner scrollers.
Yeah.
The ones who just like to look for a cool banner. Ooh, this description sounds neat. I'll give it a try.
Put it on the front page part and it plays immediately.
Yeah, and then
when
before you know
log
it,
in.
you've called in sick for
Yeah.
work and you've been watched like 20 hours of some television show that you've recently discovered. Actually, Drew, as a first-time watcher, I'm kind of most interested in what you thought of the show. Give us your rundown. Give us your high level
Give us a synopsis of
plot.
Neon Genesis.
Yeah, this is gonna
please.
be tough. You write a whole thesis
Christ.
on this.
Yeah. One, it's super pretty. Like, holy shit.
Yeah,
That
this came out in
animation-
1996. So
I know.
even for
it
as old as
blows
it
me
is,
away. Fucking 23 years later,
Yeah.
in this thing.
and this was a TV show with a TV budget. Like this was not
Their
made
budget
as like
was
a
not
movie.
great.
It was decent for the time.
Huh.
Yeah, from what I understand, it wasn't like out of this world huge, but it wasn't bad. Like there's a lot of rumors with the way the latter half of the
There is,
series goes
yes.
that they supposedly ran out of money or whatever. And there's been various interviews with the show's creator, Ano. I know his last name's Ano. I forget which H name his
We'll
first
just
name
call
is.
him Ano and correct it later.
There we go. Yeah. He's had a lot of interviews where he said that a lot of the reason that the latter half looks different than the first half is more time. It wasn't that
Time constraints?
Yeah. I think they said that they did the final episode 26, in 3 days.
Jesus fuck.
Yeah, 3 days from storyboard to final product submitted for broadcast, which is insane
That really
for
is.
any
Especially
animated show.
considering
Well,
the
even
content.
then, like, I mean, 20 years later, I mean, I might be a couple years up, but that South Park documentary, 5 days to air, about how stressful that was, and even
Yeah.
all the modern technology that we have. Think about doing it, in 96.
Exactly.
That's fucking nuts.
Yeah.
But either way, yeah, it's super pretty. All the animations. I love the designs of the Avas.
Mhm.
One of the first animes I ever started watching was back in like 2003, Gundam Wing.
Yeah.
I love the shape of those robots, the Gundams.
the
and
humanoid shape.
yeah, the humanoid shape. And the real crazy thing about Evangelion was, just how different those designs were. They were just real sleek, if that makes sense. Real slick, kind of sharp angles, you
Yeah.
know.
So, Drew, you kind of binged. I think we all kind of binged watched it this last week.
Well, again,
Yes.
so like on Saturday, I rewatched the first 8 episodes, and then Travis and I went to our friends.
And these were not the Netflix ones. You
no,
watched,
these are the
like,
UHD Blu-rays,
Blu-rays?
that Travis gave me.
Yeah, Blu-rays and the original ADV Studios English dub.
Yeah.
That's
Right,
what you
right.
watched.
Travis and I, shout out to our friend Kaylee, went out to her birthday party. Happy birthday, Kaylee. And then I came back with the intent to get further, but I was a little tipsy and I decided to listen to hip hop instead.
It's all well and good.
So yesterday I watched 6 hours of this fucking show in a row.
Jack
and I was
Nicholson, yes. That's
I was like, I even told you, like, after I got done watching the show, before I started watching the movie, we were playing Apex, and you were like, what do you think? I was
Where's
like, I
your
feel like I'm
mind
going
at?
fucking crazy.
yeah, it's a tough show to binge. I won't lie.
Yeah, and it's,
There's a lot of questions you're left with.
well, even then, the first, 14 episodes are pretty basic.
pretty normal.
They're pretty fucking basic. It's just
It's
like
just a giant
Shinji's-
robot anime with some kids
it
going to
is.
high school.
Trust us.
Shinji's a bitch. Yeah, we
it.
get it. Let's go.
Shinji's not a bitch. He's misunderstood.
Yes, I know. I agree. I sympathize a lot with this character as well. But
The one thing
you
about
just-
your argument with Shinji and all that, I have one thing to say, and I'll say it later, but it's just
No, speak your word, man.
so the whole thing. Like everybody's, oh, Shinji's a pussy. It's like it's not that he's a pussy, but never once is he like, oh fuck yeah, cool giant robot. Like not even once,
Because he's got a couple other things going on.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
he
sure.
did get
Sure,
thrown
you're
into that
looking at his-
situation.
Sure,
His
he
cool
does.
giant robot, but not from the perspective
No.
of this is a giant
yes, and I
military
understand
vehicle.
the whole world
and
has
I'm
been
14.
Yes, the whole world has been
My
reshaped
daddy
by
doesn't
this
love me.
giant disaster.
First
and
day on the job, I saw a girl my age
Get-
wheeled
Yeah,
in
I
on
know.
a fucking stretcher, half dead. And this is episode 1, so I don't consider it spoilers so much. Okay, let's go ahead and even stop it there. I might even edit that part out.
yeah.
We'll get into
I'm
that.
just
in
saying,
the
at some
spoilers
point,
territory.
he does kind of enjoy the piloting the Ava, and never is he just like. I wanted him to be excited, let him enjoy himself a little bit more, at least for.
Like I said, we'll get into
2
that spoiler
seconds.
territory stuff. We don't want to talk about the character development too much. I'm not saying that's a spoiler. I'm saying you can't say any more than you've already said.
No, I wasn't going
without
to.
going into
Yeah.
it. So since I didn't actually get a description of the show in there, basically it's about a kid, a 14-year-old boy named Shinji, who has been essentially had a request from his father to come into Tokyo 3, which is a rebuilt version of Tokyo, because we're in the near future after Tokyo has been destroyed for the first time because of a
Some sort of cataclysm.
a cataclysm. Perfect. And when he gets there, he finds out that his father works for a secret government organization named NERV, and he's been asked to get into a giant robot and fight off these enormous alien monsters called angels.
I just want to note that in the Netflix version, they put a little
NERV.
Yeah, they put a little accent on
Because it's
nerve.
supposed to be German.
NERV.
It's supposed to be German. Yeah.
there's
See, that's why I got you on the ADV dub
Yeah,
first.
that's what
'cause
I'm saying
There's going to be so
is
many things that you would
you
see
guys
as wrong now.
Didn't experience the new dub, and I
told you
well,
I got
we
8
got-
episodes in.
we gotta-
okay, so that's a good taste.
And I
'cause
changed it after
Let's
that.
let's
Yeah.
go through let's go through talking about the show, and then
Sure,
we'll
that's
talk
fine.
about
Yeah.
But yeah,
because
so he
that'll
has
be more
to-
y'all's thing. I didn't watch any of the Netflix.
That's the
shit.
basic gist of the show. That covers almost episode 1, where he has to pilot this giant robot that he sees is very dangerous. And this is a boy that up until this point has been very secluded, shy, introverted, not very sure of himself at all.
Surprisingly,
feels fairly
though,
rejected by his peers.
we
and
know
everything.
nothing about his previous life before he gets to Tokyo 3.
We get hints.
Do we?
We get little hints. And we'll get into that later.
Well, okay, just
if we
one,
do, I didn't notice them.
one thing I want to say is, so what originally brings him to Tokyo 3? Was it Misato?
Yeah, technically he gets a letter from Masato.
Right,
But that's
what
at
I
the
thought.
request of his father. I
Yeah,
assume.
surely they
Yes.
told her to reach out to him because she's
Yeah,
going to be
yeah,
the
yeah,
guardian. Because that's something his father. We'll talk about.
Right.
Yeah, so that's kind of the high level thing that's going on with the show. It's almost genre breaking in that people, TV critics, audiences, people that would not typically watch an anime,
Watch this.
this is
anime.
up in that echelon of like Akira, of
That's
Where
another
it's-
one I
where
still
it
haven't seen.
transcends anime.
Yeah,
and
where
it's
it's-
more of a story.
yeah, it's you can
It needs to be
appreciate it
told.
without the medium necessarily being a barrier from the story, because while the medium is taken advantage of in very unique ways, especially for its time, but it even still feels very modern in points, it doesn't get in the way from experiencing this story. It doesn't fall on a lot of the tropes or some of the cheesiness you can get from other shows that are kind of in the same vein. Like it doesn't stay as a giant robot anime, and I won't get into any of that outside of the spoiler territory, because it's a show that's worth experiencing
with fresh eyes.
Yeah, with fresh
Just
eyes,
don't
without
do it
really.
in 6 hours in one day.
Yeah, I mean,
I disagree wholeheartedly.
there's not necessarily a reason to binge it. There's parts of it where you will want to, but it's a show that sometimes it makes sense to take a break from.
Well,
and kind
yeah,
of
that's-
process it, and
I would
and-
say do it
Definitely.
in 4 parts.
Well, like it's just
Hey,
like
so would Anno, because that's how the rebuilds are working out so far.
no, that was definitely, I would say around episode 20 was whenever I kind of hit like my mental break a little bit. And
Yeah.
like, well, that was the kind of thing is because I had
Spoilers.
been watching it like all damn day. I was kind of starting to like sympathize with them a little too much, you know?
No, not too much. That's a
No,
sign
that's
of good
kind of the- yeah,
storytelling.
that's the
Yeah.
point,
That's
I
the
think.
last thing you want, is for a show like this to take itself seriously and
Right.
to really go for it, and then you as the viewer not really connect to this character. And it's something I know a lot of people that watched it, from what I've read of their opinions of it, that watched it when they were younger and liked it, but didn't necessarily always sympathize with the characters.
Now
but
that
then
they're
now
older
that they're
and
watching it
right.
and they're more grown up and have more life
Seeing it through
experience,
different eyes.
yeah, suddenly you can almost take more of the empathy that is being displayed in the show, sometimes consciously and sometimes subconsciously. But yeah, I would definitely say, even if you're someone who doesn't normally watch these kind of shows, to give it a try. It's on Netflix. I don't want to talk badly about the new dub, because that is one thing where the dub for this show was done by ADV Studios in the late 90s. I want to say 1997 or 1998 was when they first started releasing their DVDs, because this was not broadcast on television in the US. That was a different team. They have done a new English dub at Netflix's own in-house anime studio with new actors, some of the characters with fairly different takes on them. And the one benefit I will give to the Netflix dub is that it's a more literal translation of the original script.
It's very like I said, it's easier to digest, as in you come out of it kind of understanding what you just saw a little better.
Yeah, I could understand
Yeah,
that.
because it is kind of dumbed down.
A bit.
I hate to say that, but it kind of is.
Well, I
It's
wouldn't say
Americanized.
it's not dumbed
Thank you,
down
it's
because
localized, very much so.
well, again, that's the thing.
But
is
I
that
guess that's the point.
I would say that's not correct. I would
So
say
no?
ADV was more localized, but
Oh, I
ADV
know what
did it
you're
in a
saying.
way of
Yeah.
they made it as flowery as it sounds if you were able to listen to the original Japanese and understand it without subtitles. Because there's always things that are lost in translation. Like one of the big examples is how they refer to the children that are piloting these Avas.
I liked that though.
And I kind of, it didn't
'Cause it
bother
was-
me as much too.
but it was closer to the original, right?
It's exactly what it is. So
Yeah.
the original translation, they refer to the people that pilot the Avas as the children, even in their singular. So Shinji is the first children. Now in American English, that sounds off. You would say, oh no, Shinji's just one person. He's the first child. But that was one thing that like ADV back in 97, they had to fight for that edit because over in Japan, Gainax was very, very like, no, this is how it's supposed to be read. They had their own translators feeding them the script and stuff. So ADV got to take a couple extra liberties just to make things, you have to do that to make things sound right in English. Like certain things when translated literally just sound silly. Like our languages are not structured the same way. We have different words that have different translations. There's some words in one language that don't even have a translation in another.
It's like whenever I told you I was starting to watch it with the subtitles on, and I was just like, LOL, these subtitles are off. And that was like your whole exact thing.
Yeah, I was like, oh, they're not off. It's just you have the subtitles for the Japanese language track.
And I like that.
They're not the dub titles.
I like to notice the differences.
Yeah, I almost replied to you about that, oh, well, it'll be cool to give you a chance to see what they're actually saying versus, because they get it close, but there has to be some artistic liberty there to just make it sound proper in the new
mysticism kind of translates better with the Netflix, but again, it's just a little, some of the words they use are lesser.
Yeah.
So it sounds,
definitely later in the series, there are some comparisons on the scripts that I've seen online where it's like that moment would not hit as hard in this new dub than the old one.
It sounds nice and it flows nice, but
yeah,
you lose.
But it is one of those
meaning.
things too, where if you've never listened to the old dub, you obviously you won't know. You can't miss what you have never had.
Yeah.
But you like this dub is fine. I don't want the Netflix version to put anyone off from listening to it in the dub. If dub is how they prefer to watch these things, I'm a very much hashtag all dubs matter. If you like to watch your anime dubbed, more power to you. I think it's more important to consume the content in any way that's comfortable to you than to pass on something because, I can only watch it in English or I can only watch it in Japanese or whatever. Anything else you guys want to talk about before getting into spoiler territory?
I guess the spoiler territory is us actually discussing like intake.
We're getting into
So you really don't want to spoil anything for anybody about the show.
No, yeah.
All right.
We're getting
That's nice of you, Travis.
All right, so
we're getting our hands dirty, you might say.
Oh boy.
So we're going into spoiler territory.
Spoiler alert.
I highly recommend that you go watch this show
Right
and the
now.
movie End of Evangelion before listening to the rest of this podcast. If you don't care, you're a bad person. Take my word for it.
Pause it right now.
But
go watch everything.
this will be here later.
Yeah, and just come back and we'll still be here.
This will be here later.
Right where
and I
you left
guarantee
us.
after you watch that show, you're going to want to hear someone talk to you about it if you can't talk to someone about it right away.
That's very true.
It's true.
This is one that you are going to want someone to unravel your mind just a bit and help you process.
I mean, that's what happened literally last night. I got done watching the end of the show.
I said,
and Travis
hey,
was-
before you start the movie, if you need to talk about it, let me know. And you're like, no, I think I'm just going to dive right in the movie, but I'll let you know if I change my mind.
Oof.
And then a couple messages later was Jesus fucking Christ in all caps, separated by different lines. And
I don't
then,
know what's going on.
Okay, Travis, what just happened?
Yeah.
And then he went into the movie. So again, spoiler territory going from just the next few moments. Do not listen to this if you ever plan on watching Neon Genesis Evangelion, or if you have not yet watched End of Evangelion. We will not be getting into any material outside of that, but pause the show, make yourself a note, go watch it on Netflix.
We love you.
Come back soon.
Be gentle with yourself. It's going to be a long one.
All right. We are officially in spoiler territory. Drew, give it to me straight.
Where do you want me to start, man?
We can start at the beginning.
God damn it. Well, first, God, I keep forgetting her name.
Masato?
Misato. Thank you, Misato. Like, again, with her telling Shinji, like, hey, come to Tokyo 3. Let's do stuff. You know?
Oh, that's not what she says. She sends him a cute little postcard with a little bit of cleavage.
Yeah,
And-
but for a 14-year-old,
I mean, she really wanted him to come.
Okay, I'll go ahead and clarify. I watched this show probably when I was 12, I want to say. So, dude, if someone sent me that fucking card and I didn't have parents to answer to,
sexual themes
no,
and tension
fuck
are
yeah.
a huge part
Hot
of the show.
teacher.
oh, yeah, they are.
Like that's a give. I mean, he has to come. Like there's a reason he needs to be there.
Oh, and so what you said too, as far as what was going on with his life before he got to Tokyo 3, from what we understand, he's just homeless. Like he's kind of couch surfing. He doesn't have a guardian. One of the things that you see in the show when the episode where he decides to leave NERV around episode 7,
Couple of times that he does it.
Yeah, when the first time that he leaves and
He never really goes anywhere.
yeah,
No,
he rides the train.
doesn't get very far.
He sleeps on a train. He sleeps on a bench at one point. He seems comfortable doing those things. Clearly, this is where he's had to rest his head many times in the past.
Doesn't he come in like a uniform, like a school uniform? He doesn't go to school?
I'm sure he went to school. You could be homeless and still go to school. He does. He again, Shinji does the things that he was told to do. No one ever told him to stop going to school, so he kept going to school. But he didn't necessarily have a home to go to.
Yeah, like I said, I
So you
would
just ride the
really
train.
I would really like to know why he's so like against this new life. Like, was
Well, we
his
know that
old
he ran
life
away from his father.
right? Was his soul life so much? Do we know he ran?
I thought his
yeah.
father like abandoned him.
He didn't have
Well,
a use for him, so he kind of just
Abandoned him to the
Cast
point
him
where
aside.
Shinji just left,
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
thing. Like he wasn't parenting him in any way.
didn't even notice.
We know that he ran away because when they go to visit his mother's grave later in the series, he says, "We haven't seen each other since the last time we were here." And Shinji says that was before
It's
I
like
ran
3
away.
years, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
So, and he is 14 at the start of the show, so he had to have run away around age
11.
10 or 11. And of course, that doesn't being homeless just means you don't have a home. Like he could have
Sure, they
maybe
have
he had
they
a
have
couple
bath-
of friends.
bath houses and stuff
Yeah,
like
I'm
that.
sure there's.
true, yeah.
He's probably stayed in a shelter before. It's clear he was not starving. He
I
had been
would
making
like to know where
ways
he
to
came
eat.
from. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, we kind of know.
I think
Like,
you're
that's
just
one of
gonna
those
have to
things-
like abandon that.
Yeah,
you're never gonna
never
get
gonna
it.
know that.
Yeah.
You get context from what you see, and that's what something that this show does so well that I know bothers you a lot of times.
yes, because I like specific.
It gives you, it doesn't dump the exposition on you until they're ready to start telling you about all of the crazy stuff that's been happening behind the scenes. Like they aren't going to give you an exposition of, oh, what has Shinji been doing? Do we get flashbacks of
kind of
Shinji hanging out with
toothpaste
friends
does he
beforehand?
use?
Yeah, like it's not that kind of exposition.
Yeah.
When they decide to give you an info dump, it's the episode where all of a sudden, what the fuck are the Dead Sea Scrolls? Who are these Sele people? They start dropping all this crazy shit on you.
That shit really did come out
Did
of
they
nowhere.
ever actually
yeah.
tell you in the show where the sea scrolls come from?
They say that they were recovered,
Found
at
right at the probably
somewhere.
at the second impact site or something like that.
Maybe I
would
think so, or
assume
even first.
First
it could have been
Impact,
First
probably.
Impact.
Oh yeah.
Because
So
First Impact is where the Geofront is.
Yes,
And the Geofront, and
then they found it
headquarters
later.
is built on
Yeah.
is from the Black Moon, and the Black Moon. See, some of this is gonna be stuff.
yeah,
you
this
haven't
is
picked up on.
over my head
your
right now. Yeah, because this again, when I watch it just in that long setting,
See, that's
I
kind of what I was
definitely
curious
miss
about.
stuff.
So,
yeah.
but what did you pick out of this? Do you know what the Evangelions are made out of?
Yeah, they're humans. Well, like they're.
but do you know like
They're not though.
they're
similar.
cyborgs almost.
I believe it's revealed in End of Evangelion because Mizoda is telling Shinji.
Misato.
Sorry, I'm gonna
Risotto.
Think miso,
Risotto, yeah.
and add an auto at the end of it. Misato.
Misato, excuse me. After like they're being attacked by the JSPF or whatever.
Yeah, JSDF, right? Japan's Security Defense Force. The JSDF is a real defense. That's Japan's army because they don't have a standing army; they have a defense force because of World War II and all that stuff.
But
I think
it's
it's,
like,
when
okay, it's-
when he's taking them underground because
Yeah,
Misato
yeah,
finally goes
yeah.
and shows them
Exactly.
Lilith, or who they think is Adam,
Right.
on the cross with the Lance of Longinus in him.
Well, in End of Evangelion, Lance Longinus was gone
Yeah,
already.
they
'cause
used it-
Ray used it to take out
to kill the Ava in the stratosphere or whatever.
Yeah.
in orbit.
because that was the episode.
So it's just hanging up by the nails
Yes.
at that point.
Yes,
Oh,
but
okay.
also
You're right.
Koji is the one that shows Misato.
yeah, because that was I remember that
Or at least
episode.
in the Netflix version.
no, I remember that. Yeah, because
she puts a gun to the back of his head and says,
Well, because that was the episode.
Show me shit.
No, because that was the episode too where Misato was going through kind of that weird existential crisis of where she is in life and all while her friends being married and shit like that. Because I remember the preview episode to that one. I remember Oscar narrating that episode because like she said something that really shocked me. She goes, on the next episode, Misato counts down to her biological clock or something like that. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Oh, the one where her and Kaji go on
Yeah.
the date. I love that
Uh-huh.
episode. But so the Evangelions, they're humanoid, but they're made from clones of Adam,
Yes.
the angel that started Second Impact.
Only 01 is made from Adam. The other ones are made from Lilith, if I'm not mistaken. And all this is from the wiki.
Can we go over just like First Impact again? Because that's something again that just went over my head. Kind of like how this whole started.
I get first and second impact confused, so I would honestly, I'd have to hear you because I can't.
So First Impact is the first event. It's not what a lot of people thought was the like another name for the asteroid that comes and hits the Earth and kills the dinosaurs.
Right.
It's after that because the idea of First Impact that's the white moon that Lilith is part of, and she's not the first angel because the angels are Adam's the first angel, but she's another of a similar creation that is dropped onto the earth at very high speeds
to repopulate planets, I believe, is their goal, right?
Well, it's just to not repopulate, but populate.
Yeah, to grow planets.
Yeah, and some of that gets out of the stuff this isn't necessarily all explained in the series, but we know that the white moon crashes in the earth. The particles that come up from the planet are what coalesce and form our moon, and the white moon is holding Lilith and essentially the primordial soup. So that's where it comes from in Evangelion.
Okay.
And so that's where the first humans come from.
Okay.
Is that this thing crashes into Earth. We're all born from this being named Lilith. And then the second impact is something that wasn't supposed to happen.
It was completely accidental, correct?
Yes.
Like just
a second of these
random
alien things is sent to us the same planet, which is not supposed to happen. And that's the black moon that ends up in Antarctica.
And each of these moons or shells or whatever, they each contain a lance of Longinus.
They contain a lance of Longinus and a seed of life.
Yes,
is what they're referred to.
And the lance of Longinus is in there with each one to prevent both of them from being in the same place at the same time. But I believe Adam's was destroyed in First Impact, or we are assumed it's lost. Or Lilith's lance of Longinus is destroyed in First Impact, and when Adam comes later,
that's
the
second
only
impact one because the Lance of Longinus has been at the moon. We don't know what happened to it. We just know there was no Lance of Longinus that could be recovered at the Antarctica incident.
Yeah,
and then that's the one that we find out. It was assumed destroyed, but it was just picked up with all the debris that shot off into the atmosphere and ejected from the planet's gravity that made the moon. So that's why when we see the new Lance of Longinus, it's one that's been attached to the moon this whole time. And that's the one that gets pulled down in End of Evangelion by the
No,
because
remember at some point they use it to poke.
That's Lilith's.
No, there's only one Lance of Longinus in the whole show.
Just two.
No, it's not the same one.
That's what I'm saying. Look it up.
I want to say
just told
there's
you,
two.
is that what it
The
says?
second one, because I know what you're saying.
Because
Is
the second one shows up in End of Evangelion.
Yeah, the first is the one that they use.
that Rey uses to pierce the shoot
No,
up.
they take that one out of Lilith and
Correct.
she yeah.
Adam has a Lance of Longinus too. That's the one that they lose.
Oh, it's destroyed.
No, they say it's destroyed. It's in the moon.
Rey throws it and it goes into the moon.
Did they show that?
Yes,
I thought that was the one that
it
goes
pierces
into
the
space.
angel and it goes and it lands into the moon and then
Oh,
they
okay.
say it's lost.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then it somehow just like pulls itself back into the planet, and I really didn't understand that part. Yeah, because I was under the implication when I read it that there's only one Lance of Longinus in the show because one is destroyed.
It could be.
Yeah.
All this shit is super crazy.
It's just true. Yes,
There's a lot going on in the show.
yeah, a lot.
So the Avas are made from clones of Adam.
Yeah.
And then that's why Kaworu and his episode, he's the guy that like says
he's
to
the
Shinji
final
he's his
angel,
friend or whatever. Yeah.
He's the first and last angel.
That's why he's able to control those things because he is also a clone of Adam.
He's essentially Adam. He's essentially Rey's version of Adam because Rey is Lilith.
Yeah, the Rey
technically.
situation's all fucking weird too. So Rey
That
is
was-
a clone of Lilith.
Her soul is
That's whenever I
Lilith's
originally
soul
Lilith's
said
soul.
is
Yeah.
basically inside a Rey body.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I
that's-
mixed that up. The DNA comes from Yui.
Yes. And,
Which is Shinji's mother.
Kaoru is kind of the same thing as where Adam's soul is inside of a Kaoru shaped
Yeah.
whatever vessel.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I know. It's crazy. And so I know that you were very confused about the two ending episodes.
Holy shit.
The series
Honestly,
episodes,
yeah,
correct.
because that was I was just at my breaking point with that show because I've been watching it for all goddamn day.
That's why I feel like this is one that's so rewatchable because you really do get so
Oh,
many
yeah,
more things out of
definitely.
it.
You see something new
I'm
every
definitely
time.
like
Yeah.
sometime this week I'm gonna go watch and rewatch those last 5 episodes for sure.
You just rewatch the whole show again, man, because you appreciate the lighter moments so much more.
Yeah. Oh
Like, I
yeah, because they're
still-
so necessary in the beginning.
After rewatching, I think episode 9 is my favorite, and that's the one where Shinji and Asuka have to team
the
up
duel or the
and, like,
dance.
yeah,
The
like,
dance one
that's
is
a
so
good
good.
Yeah.
That one is really good.
in that final battle that's done to the music that they've been listening to for their routine the
Yeah.
whole time. That episode's incredible. And that's one of those things too, like there's so many little things that once you start rewatching it and everything, now that you've seen episodes 25 and 26, you have such a better feeling of what these characters are going through in their heads and the stuff that they're not sharing. in like one of my favorite aspects of episode, I think it's 22, when Asuka has her whole mind breaking situation.
Yeah, because she's fighting against that angel that just like he went
that
hallelujah.
probe- yeah, that
I loved that moment in the show when it just fucks with her head and hallelujah's playing in the background.
Yeah.
I was like, damn.
Yeah.
And in the Netflix version, they use rape, the word rape a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And it lands
because that's the more
pretty-
literal.
Yeah, and
translation.
it lands pretty hard with her experience. And like I said, that's one of those
Did
moments
she
where
get molested or?
no,
it's
she
mind
says like
rape.
she says mind rape. She says I
okay.
feel like I've been. She says a lot of stuff that's very like it. Makes
She knows
you,
that what happened during that, like, it's all those innermost thoughts and feelings and stuff that she doesn't express to people.
Yeah,
But something was able to take it out of her.
like that's
Wow.
one of the instances
Okay.
where Netflix really kind of it lands a little better than I remember.
Yeah.
yeah. So
And I've heard too that out of all the dub casts, like hers is probably I've heard that she
Asuka's-
tries to be. She sounds a lot like Tiffany Grant from
she
the original
tries to
dub.
sound like a kind of childish, but I think that works with Asuka's personality because Asuka's.
Oh yeah, well they're all
temper and
14. I
everything.
like the
Yeah.
idea that they all
She's
sound
very
younger
childish
in this new one.
She acts very childish.
Yeah, but there's a moment in that
Is that a thing
episode.
with the new one where all the voice actors sound younger?
To me, they do.
They
Okay.
kind of sound like they're trying to sound.
Yeah. There's a specific clip that gets me every time with episode 22 where during that scene you start to see these thoughts and these flashbacks, and there's a moment in one of the earlier episodes, I think it might be 9, it might be a couple before that, well, it can't be too far before that, I think it might be around episode 9, but there's a moment where it's an episode where Misato and Kaji are kind of back together, and so she doesn't come home for the night, and she says, hey, I'm coming, I'm not going to be
I think I
home,
know
don't
what
wait
you're
up for
talking
me.
about. Yeah.
And there's this moment where, like, right off the bat, Asuka's like, "Oh, Misato's not coming home. Great!" And she grabs her,
I remember this.
her like bedding or whatever,
Yeah.
and takes it outside the room into Misato's room so that she can be further away from Shinji.
Yes.
And then they have this moment too where she's like, "This is the wall of Jericho. You will not come past this wall. I don't want you anywhere near me or pulling any funny business or whatever." And of course, she's got such a low cut shirt, and Shinji's like a
Yes, and
fucking boy and everything.
And
you
we're made to kind of wonder: is this intentional? Is she trying to get Shinji to?
Well, again,
remember-
it's so much that like clearly these people are physically attracted to each other, but
But
Asuka's
neither
ego
one of
is saying,
them-
"I really don't like this kid's attitude. I don't like the kind of person he is and stuff."
I wish he were different.
Yeah.
She wants him to man up.
But
Yes.
in episode 22, you see a clip from that scene that we aren't shown during the original episode, where Asuka is behind that door, and as soon as she closes it, she starts like crying and is like huddled over. Because really what she wants is for Shinji to not be so oblivious
Right.
and want to try to connect with someone else.
she's suffering
and go
and
over
wants
there
him to
and just like
notice.
give her a hug kind of
Yeah.
thing. Because later in the episode, we do see that she does like, she gets up to go to the restroom and then just like subconsciously,
Yes,
like
lies
mid
next
dream,
to, yeah.
immediately like falls down and lies next to Shinji instead of going back into her room. And then again, we see that tension where like Shinji's like, "Oh, am I going to be super creepy and like give her a kiss or whatever?"
Or is it one of those instances where Asuka's wanting that?
Well, again,
and-
yeah, the subconscious part of her is that clearly she doesn't necessarily want something
I know.
sexual.
She wants
but
intimacy.
She wants to be near
Yes.
somebody. Yeah.
and that's what Shinji
she
wants.
needs
Also,
comfort, man.
Yeah.
Shinji wants somebody to let him know that it's okay, that I
Well-
lied, that it's okay, and you're okay. But he also hates himself. So
Yeah, that's my only problem with Shinji, and it's not even a problem with him. Obviously, he had a
character
rough
flaws.
life,
It's character flaws.
lost his mother, and then abandoned by his father and everything. And this is pointed out very poignantly throughout 25 and 26, where he wants these things like unconditionally, but makes almost zero effort
Yeah.
to acquire it.
Absolutely.
Like he is always, it's always from a selfish
He's playing
perspective.
the victim.
Yeah.
a lot, yes.
And which
Yep.
that's fine, but there's that
To a
Chris
point.
Rock quote where it's like people want to see you helping yourself before they lend a hand, kind of thing. Like his whole quote is like, if you're like, my car broke down on the highway once, and I was like waving people down to like try and come help me, and no one comes up and helps. And then finally, I'm just like, fuck it. I start pushing this car down the highway, and then sure enough, a couple minutes later, 2 other cars pull up, get in behind him, and they jump out immediately and start helping him push. That's always Shinji's issue throughout the show, even though as he's growing and stuff, he's getting happier, his mood is improved, but he's still just moving through the motions.
It's kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Yeah, he's almost happy because he's not looking for a routine anymore.
Or the reverse.
But even through this whole time, as these characters kind of try to reach out to him a little bit, he's still, for some reason,
Yes.
they're being mean, or why won't you just like me, or why won't you just love me, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that was something. Yeah, pretty annoying about his character.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you said, wants attention, but isn't not willing to put in the work.
Yeah.
For the most
Or
part,
willing to
his-
reciprocate.
His
Absolutely.
growth is very stagnant, other than the few moments where he kind of changes, but he immediately reverts back to his normal Shinji-ness.
Yeah. Yeah. By the end of the series, a lot of that's been undone.
Yes,
For various
very,
reasons.
very much so. Yes.
What about you, Ethan? What you got for me?
You know, I just have a couple of nitpicks. I wish I could have maybe watched a couple of comparisons more than I saw, so I had details
Of the
about
two dubs?
what was different.
scripts?
Yeah, but like I said, for the most part, I think Netflix does a fine job. I did learn something new with something you said about 25 and 26 being inside of the characters' minds, or more of a psychological thing, and then the movie being the outside world.
The physical.
Yeah, I didn't realize those were two kind of correlated, and I looked and I was like, yeah, that's
If Travis didn't tell me, I would have been like, "What the fuck?" Is
'Cause
this
it-
even more just
Yeah,
what the fuck's
it does-
going
That's
on?
why I didn't
really-
want to say it until you watch the
No,
final episode.
I know
of
you
the
really
series.
appreciate.
it
Yeah,
doesn't
you doing
come
that.
off like that when you're watching them.
Well, they
don't
kind of
s-
hint at it because
They
that's the whole
do,
thing.
but
The
it
movie's
doesn't-
split into two episodes. They even have full credits
Yes.
Yeah.
at the end of the first part.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it was not something I noticed. But with 25 and 26, isn't they're doing that? What was that word called? Inner something. The process of blending all the souls into one
Instrumentality.
Oh, yeah.
instrumentality. Yeah, isn't that just what was going on through 25 and 26?
It's the decision of it, kind of riding a fence.
20
straddling
instrumentality
a
has
fence.
not started right at episode 25, but
Oh,
you're
sorry.
still
What I wanted to say
seeing-
was in Netflix, they do actually have the episode numbers in the movie. So you know that they're supposed to represent.
They're on the
25
DVD and the
26.
Blu-ray,
Oh, they are?
too.
Okay. Sorry. And that's,
That's
one
what
of
I'm
the
saying,
things
'cause they
I
each-
didn't know.
They even have
Yeah.
the title cards where something will happen and they'll pull it up in the film. And then, at 25, you get full credits with that
Yeah.
awesome ending song.
I don't remember the numbers being there, so I didn't. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
They're kind of fast.
Yeah.
And then part 2 also starts with that note from,
Yes.
Hideki
yeah,
Anno.
where he says he thanks everybody.
yeah. Did Netflix happen to have the weird live action thing before the movie starts?
What?
Because there's like this short film live action thing that's on the DVD I had in the past and the Blu-ray. Not the section in 26.
Oh, the movie theater part.
Yeah.
No, not. I don't know which. I don't really recall.
You may
what
not have
you're-
ever
you're
seen it.
talking
Wait,
about.
I
I've
think
never
I
seen it
vaguely remember
translated.
this. What?
I don't know how you would have seen it.
What does it look like?
Okay, maybe no.
It looks like the movie theater scene and the couple of outside shots, but it's like a 10-minute thing.
I think I saw it. Is it 3? Is it supposed to be the 3 women characters?
Them, but there's also someone who like might be Shinji. I was just
I
curious
did
if they
think
had it.
I read something, but no, I don't think I've seen it unless I saw it with you, maybe, and I forgot.
I was just curious if that was on Netflix. 'Cause that
No,
part's weird.
I don't think
and
it was.
it's never been translated to my knowledge, so it was always a weird part.
yeah.
I don't know why I didn't just like chapter skip it. I always assumed it was part of the movie and to like get me weirded out before everything
It's
started.
probably got some meaning, but the movie theater scene is weird. It's kind of.
Did you look up like any meanings for that? I still haven't. I'm still not 100% sure if it's literally just supposed to be like, this is you guys right now. This is the audience.
Well, because at a certain point, like they show the audience shot where they're gone,
yeah.
so I assume it's supposed to be like, this is a possibility. You disappear. I don't know. Yeah, it really needs a little bit of some kind of something.
Yeah.
I need a little piece of info.
Did you
Come
pick
on.
out the part of I think it's just in the movie version, and they kind of go over it pretty quickly because you just hear dialogue from characters that you didn't hear throughout the series. But one of the things that Shinji does during instrumentality is he views an alternate timeline
Oh yeah.
of the world that he would have been living
Oh, is this
in.
in like the actual show?
No, this is in the movie.
Oh, okay.
It's like a.
I
it's
thought you were
one of
talking
those-
about the part where he's like in 26, where he's like, it's the alternate reality where he's a little more, where like Asuka's been his best friend for years.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot they do show it.
yeah,
in the
they
show.
go to
That's right.
school.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they show the ending of that too in the movie version.
Yes, they do. That's
Except
what
it's
you're
like
talking
faster
about.
clips and like distorted audio and stuff where even in that world, because Shinji decides to live his life the same way, it still gets to the point where like Asuka does, like they do to get together, but then she decides to break up with him, and she's because of the same problems that they have that he's going through now, where he's
Right.
not reciprocating love and all that, and same thing with like Misato and Rei and these other characters, all these different instances where he's living the same life and he's still ending up in the same painful positions because he's still refusing to change himself, just his circumstances. But then it's the same result every time. And that's that final moment where he's like, well, maybe I do just like don't want to, maybe I do want to end it all. Maybe,
Right.
maybe we shouldn't have to
Maybe
like
it is-
suffer through all
yeah.
this pain and stuff.
But then he changes his mind, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And that's one of my favorite moments of episode 26, I think, the TV version, where post instrumentality, you have like the white paper and then Shinji's like drawn out and he's just like floating.
Yeah.
And then finally Rei is like, oh, well, what if we draw a line here?
Yes.
It's
Uh-huh.
like, well, now you're grounded, but you don't have the same freedom you had before.
Mhm.
And this is part of what like living in the world is like,
Yeah,
and
it's like-
choosing to have a self.
It's a very
That like no matter
literal
what
version of what they're doing.
It's such
yeah.
a good way of showing it because the end of the show gets so much into like what the ego is and the id, and that like no matter what, like you're going to go through life and things are going to be painful, and you can't just like fucking cry
can't
about
cower it.
literally
Yeah, exactly.
everything that happens
crawl up
because
into a ball and die.
yeah, but like not living means that you're giving up on the things that aren't painful and all this other stuff too. And you, having that option of like infinite freedom and everything. Well, what's the point if you don't feel anything, even though you're free?
Right.
And there's just so many cool themes that they go over
Huh. That's
in
really
that
interesting.
show.
Yeah.
self-worth.
That was supposed to
There's a
just
lot
be
of-
about giant
there's
robots.
so much good stuff.
Yeah,
about it.
really,
that
dude.
was just a
Like-
distraction. He knew
Well,
what he was doing.
It's like,
No,
this wasn't what I signed up for.
there's
Why am
interviews
I
with
going
that.
through an existential crisis watching the show?
There's interviews where he's like, we got to like around the halfway point of the show, and they had some things like he said they specifically lightened up like episodes 7, 8, and 9 because after they did the first 6, like everyone on staff was just so doom and gloom because it. Like it's been getting worse and worse and worse every episode. It's like, fuck, we need to lighten this up a little bit. So then that was when they wrote 7, 8, and 9. And that it was very much they didn't really have a roadmap. And there were so many issues that Anno faced like in his personal life and mentally and stuff during production that he ended up reflecting into the work. And that's another thing that's so cool about this show, that it does throw a wrench into things. It does do things so much differently than you expected. And it's done so masterfully. Like so much of the framing and the animation techniques, like it does not look like an anime from its time. It's gorgeous.
They did a thing that I thought was really impressive where they'd sit on a still image for a long time, but still have like
dramatic,
meaningful dialogue
Tense,
throughout
like the
whole
elevator scene
exactly.
with Ray and Asuka,
Uh-huh.
and even that final scene in episode, what is that, 24 with the Kaoru episode?
Where he's
it's
holding
just-
him in his fist
Yes,
for so
that-
long.
that's
goes
right.
on
Because he's
and it-
making his decision.
Yes,
He's like,
he
am I,
is.
yeah.
Yes.
I
the whole
literally,
thing,
throughout the whole thing, I even just like hit the pause button. Was is it still playing? Like,
yeah, because he really is. You're supposed to think about it. You're supposed to think Shinji's inside Evangelion thinking.
This is the
I
first person
have-
he's ever made a friendly relationship
It's true,
with him
man.
in
And
his
also-
mind.
But
And now he has
but
to
in his
fucking
mind, he
murder him.
also
Yeah.
betrayed his trust a little bit. And with what Kaoru has just told him, only one of them can survive. He either kills him or Kaoru does what he's there for, and Shinji dies for reasons.
But also, Kawaru, he already knows he's going to die.
Yes,
Like,
he's
like, you're supposed to kill
Yeah.
me. Like, I know what I'm here to do, but seeing you and meeting you,
It makes it hard.
I don't want to, I can't do that anymore. That's not what I want.
He has his own
I
agenda.
want humanity to continue because there's other people like you out there.
He even says, the greatest gift that humanity or the product of Lilith gave was like singing. He loved music and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And, I think that's one of the reasons that they play that orchestra that whole episode, and it makes it just so grand. And it's
that's one of the
emotional.
things.
Oh, it's so
Emotional, man.
good. But
Anyone who had a rumor that the show must have run out of budget and that's why it got the way it was in the last half of the series clearly wasn't listening to the music.
no, and even
because they had full blown
Yeah.
fucking orchestral soundtracks and shit.
But that
Like-
pause is really it's really it hits home.
makes the
because,
moment, man.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
just in there thinking and contemplating. I have to do this. All right.
And this is only a few episodes after he was forced to kill Toji, or
Yes.
like not kill. He doesn't
injure,
die,
like
he didn't
doesn't
know.
He, like get,
Yeah.
but he loses a leg.
loses a leg. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We know that.
So one thing I'm going to try and see if I can make this work towards the action sequences.
Mhm.
They at times, and I know this came out way before what I'm going to compare it to, feel My Hero Academia ish because they're not like DBZ. It's not just overly action all the time. The situations that that put them in there, you feel the escalation of it. You feel the desperation of what they have to do and how they figure it out. Like I could like in My Hero Academia, like whenever they're at the first trials in the big stadium and like the Legion attacks everyone, and like I think it's Deku, the frog girl, and someone else. Oh, and the spongy haired dude are trapped on that boat.
Oh, yeah.
They have to figure out a way to get off that boat from all the villains trying to attack them.
Yeah, they make a plan.
Yeah, exactly.
They're tactical.
And it's like the first time whenever Asuka, Rei, and Shinji go out and fight that demon, and it's like they're in that tunnel.
Oh, the one where power gets taken out
Yeah,
for the whole
power
city?
gets taken out, and,
And without any of the headquarters people helping or Masato on the line or anything, they come up with a plan.
Yeah.
And they assign each other roles. And within seconds, it's like they launch the plan, it's done because
it's
they only had one shot.
Exactly.
There were if they fucked up and this didn't work, well, shit, everyone's dead. So like, let's make it work the first time. And again, that's another point to like how they're all 14. Like
I know.
that's something that so many shows, they just put a number on it and then it's like, okay, this person's 14, and then everything that happens in this show is like someone in their mid 20s as far as the writing
And that's where
and the
comes like,
acting and stuff.
the complexes and the issues. They are younger
They're children.
Yeah.
children,
Children.
yes.
and every adult is horrible.
Yes.
They're all fucking awful
Yes.
people.
Yeah.
Yes. It is kind of, if you have to think about it, it really is only the two children. Like, it really is only Shinji and Asuka.
Ray's got a soul.
Yeah, but is she really?
So here's the whole thing.
Is she
This-
really a child, or is she really just like Lilith trapped in a body, kind of
Well, this is what I
biding
had
her
been reading.
time?
So the reason the whole thing with Ava Unit 0 works, and the reason that she's considered one of the children, is that the soul, the most accepted theory, is that so every Evangelion has a soul that's bound to it.
Yeah.
The children that pilot it, it's their mother's souls that have been placed into these vessels. That's
Yes.
what makes them the children. It's not that there's some special feature that they have or some computer algorithm they're running. They know who the children is that will pilot this Evangelion because their dead mom is inside of it. So Ava Unit 0 has Yui Ikari in it. Shinji's actually in NERV headquarters when this happens, watching the tests that they do
Yes,
on Yui.
that's right.
Where Yui also, I don't know if, I think you might have read this part. Yui chooses to go inside the Evangelion. They had plans for someone else to do it, but she begins the experiment herself with Shinji there because she's just fucking mom of the year. And knowing that she's going to like be dead after this and sucked up into the fucking
Machine.
the LCL or whatever the
Right.
hell. The thing with Unit 0 is that Ray 1's soul is probably the one that had been implanted into the Evangelion. And because Ray 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 they're all clones of her. That's why. So Ray doesn't technically have a mother, but the soul
the
of herself is
yeah.
kind of like the next second thing.
Mhm.
It's just something that you can have that direct connection with. And it's the same thing with Ava Unit 2. Asuka's mother is in that machine.
And we find that out later in.
Yeah, and we
in the
see because
movie.
Asuka's whole thing is that Asuka's mom doesn't die during her contact experiment, but she loses her mind. So the idea is that specifically the maternal aspect of her soul is
Was
what ends up in the
trapped or
Evangelion.
left in
But
the
not
Evangelion.
And that's why
necessarily.
Asuka's so comfortable in Unit 2, because she grew up without her mother and her father was
Well, also,
distant.
didn't her real mom after the experiment like try to do a double suicide with Asuka, or did I kind of just?
No, that was her mom, her real mom.
Yeah,
That was the mom that went crazy.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like after that, isn't that what she tries to like get Asuka to do it with her or something? Or
Or no, not with her, I don't think, because Asuka walks in
that's right,
on
she
the
does
mom.
stumble upon it. Yeah,
She
after
kills
the-
herself because she thinks that
Yeah.
that's to be with her daughter because she doesn't know where her
Yeah,
daughter is.
she thinks her
anymore.
daughter's dead because she's just lost.
Yeah,
it.
because her Asuka's mom stops recognizing Asuka as
she thinks she's a
as
doll.
her.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
She thinks the doll is her doll.
And so that's the whole moment too where she has that dope ass fucking scene in the movie
Oh, dude, that was
where
so awesome.
she's just losing her mind in the
Uh-huh.
Evangelion, and then it turns on and she realizes, oh,
Yeah, do we really
that's
know-
why I love being in the Ava. My mom is in here and she's been with me this entire time.
Do we really know why that like it just activates like that at that point, or is it just she's pushed to a
well,
limit?
it's whenever the
They bomb the
JSDF
lake.
or whatever it is.
Yeah.
bombs the lake, and that's what kind of kicks it in.
I think so, yeah.
Flimsy.
Well, because I think they had powered her on, but she
couldn't pilot
She was-
anything.
but she
couldn't
wasn't
make it-
moving.
She couldn't
She
make
was
it move
still-
because her
'cause
sync
she was-
rates
yeah.
were so low. Yeah,
She
but
was
like
still
that's what
in,
I'm
like,
saying.
her
I'm
crazy
just kinda
depression.
I think it
wondering,
was just a
like,
mental thing because it's the
that's what
same thing that like
she
when
was just pushed to a limit.
yeah, there's been a couple moments where Shinji's like out of it,
And that was
then
another one.
his mom comes in and is just like, "Hey,
That's
babe,
yeah, like
it's
when
cool,
it
you
just
can do it."
activates Ava Unit 1 at the end to get him to actually go out there.
Yeah.
yeah.
So is that why the Ava unit, like in episode 1, whenever it covers Shinji like this?
Yeah.
Is that like his mom?
Yeah, it's his mom
It's
protecting.
UA
Right.
reacting, and that's one of the instances where it also like where they try to force Ray to pilot Unit 1 because they're doing like duplicate pilot tests to see if they can
Yeah.
switch pilots with Avas and stuff, and they put because Shinji won't do it at this point in the show, and they put Ray in there, but Gendo specifically says, "Is this UA rejecting me?" Not
Yeah,
you
because
know,
there's
yeah.
been times where Ray's been able to pilot Unit 1
Yes.
because Yui's
Yeah.
just like she's cool with
Yeah,
it.
but at this point she was like, no.
Yeah, she knows why Shinji's not there, and she
Yes,
knows
'cause
she's
it's
trying to tell
wrong.
Gendo,
Yeah,
you can't do this right now. And it's the same thing too when Unit 0 goes berserk and like tries to destroy the lab a couple times. Something really cool that I'd never seen before is that so Ray 1, this is one of the proofs that we have for why it's probably Ray 1 and is the soul that's in this unit.
In
That-
0, right? Unit 0?
Yeah, that one of the first activation tests when it goes berserk and it's attacking, they think that she's attacking Rey because Rey's standing there in
Doesn't
the thing.
like everyone in that place think it's attacking them? Because doesn't Dr. Akagi also say it?
So she's the only other one that says it. It does seem like it actually was trying to attack her because there's a shot where you see from the Evangelion's point of view, looking into the lab, Rey standing there, and you see Dr. Akagi,
Behind
except
her.
she's got brown hair like her mother does.
Who does? Dr. Akagi does?
Yeah. Instead of Ritsuko's normal blonde hair,
Uh-huh.
when you look at the shot that's through her, she's very faint, but there's no blondes in there. And the only woman is Ritsuko, but she has brown hair instead of her blonde hair. Her mom has brown hair,
Yes.
and her mom is the one that murdered Rey 1.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a scene. I don't know. That's another one too. That's
I
kind of
do remember
convoluted.
that. Well, that was the.
It's a scene
I
where
think that
little
was, like,
girl Rey
episode
comes
20.
out and just like,
You hag
Yeah,
or
he's
something.
like,
Yeah,
oh.
that's what Dad.
she's
calls
like, oh,
you,
you're
yeah.
not supposed to say that. She's like, oh, I didn't say it. That's what that's what Mr. Akari says or whatever when you're not around. And she's like, oh, you better
And
stop.
before we know it, she's just
Then she strangles
already
her, and then
done
that's
it.
what.
Yeah.
Then she ends up killing herself because she feels so guilty over
Yes.
murdering this little
Yep.
fucking 8-year-old girl. And so presumably, at some nondescript point, they're able to extract the soul from Rey because again, she's a clone.
Mhm.
They were obviously able to put one in, and they were able to use that and transplant that into the Ava, so that once Rey 2 grows up, and
Yeah.
they start using her as the first pilot.
Man.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, that's interesting.
And then
Yeah.
Rey 3, of course, is the Rey that is in the series after
She
Rey 2
saves
sacrifices herself
for Shinji
when
yeah.
she detonates the S2 mine.
and that third Rey is definitely like the most Lilith of all of them because she in the end makes like the decision to betray Gendo.
Well, I think it's the same Rey as Rey 2, but
Well, yeah,
she hasn't had as long of a time to develop
because she doesn't
because she doesn't have the same
memories.
interactions that she's
Yeah.
had with everyone.
Oh, I
up to
get
that
what
point.
you're saying.
Because
Yeah.
Rey 2 even like humanizes a little bit throughout the show. Obviously,
She
first time
laughs
Shinji
more.
saves her, she smiles for one of the first times. Only other person we ever see her interacting with positively is Gendo.
Yeah. Oh,
which-
and I mean, by the end, she sacrifices herself for Shinji.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think that Rey 3 is still the same, similar to Rey 2, but
Put
just
her
different
back in. She's not
circumstances.
done yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep going into different weirder aspects of it, but where are we at? We're already at just over 2 hours. That's pretty long.
Oh,
Yeah,
are we really?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
we've
wow.
been-
I didn't realize we'd been
we
going that
talked
long.
we
about
started
that-
Ava
that-
about like an hour.
Oh,
Also,
our first
that
half
loot
went-
box talk went on for
That went a
quite a
little-
while.
I expected it to.
That went a
yeah.
little bit longer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you guys want to close it out a little bit?
You got anything else for me? Any other little things?
Shinji did something gross at the beginning of the movie. Go and watch it if you feel like it.
God, that part's so very fucked up.
I
That's one they don't handle as well in the Netflix dub.
No, the word that
the
they
line
use
is so much.
But
The
there's
line's
a-
so
what do
much
they
better
s-
in the movie.
They
Oh,
say
well-
all she says is it's one word. It's just oh no, I'm thinking of the very last line of the movie. Actually,
Yeah.
never mind.
Okay.
They fuck it up. He says I'm the worst of the worst.
So
Oh,
because that's like
whoa.
that's the literal translation, but because that's one of those lines they workshopped, and I think
Yeah, there was less cursing in the Netflix version.
Yeah,
I
honestly.
think they
the-
just say fucked up. I mean, Netflix
I don't know.
allows cussing.
I don't know.
well because again that was a line that they wrote specifically for the ADV version.
Okay.
That wasn't what it
again,
was
so
in
this
the
was,
Japanese.
This was
movie.
just closer to the actual
Yeah,
translation.
because they're workshopping lines and stuff, and I know
Oh,
that the
right.
voice actor for Shinji in
Uh-huh.
the TV show in
Yeah.
the old dub
Uh-huh.
hates the character, like not like he hates playing him, but that like he
He hates his personality.
he hates Shinji as a person.
Use that.
Yeah, exactly. So I know that was part of where that came out of. So that was very just like that was him getting into the character. Then just sick from what this kid is doing.
yeah.
And yeah, that's another thing too, where I could not imagine. I might try it someday, but the new dub would be real hard to get through for the movie because the movie is where like all of the ADV cast have like come into their own, and particularly the moment with Masato
Yeah.
when she's been shot
Mhm.
and is like trying to get Shinji onto the elevator.
Yeah.
Like that moment is
It's-
so much stronger. Gets me welled up in the eyes
Oh,
every fucking time I've ever
when I was
watched that
watching
movie.
it last night.
Yeah, I don't
for
know.
sure.
I rewatched that scene specifically probably before we started
Yeah.
recording or before we came down here, and it does not hit hard.
So did you happen to read about the 2 alternate endings that had been worked on for End of Evangelion with the beach scene?
Like what Asuka says.
Well, not just what she says, but like there were 2 other endings that they had storyboarded and workshop before they had cut it down to what's in the
Endings
film.
specifically, no, but I know that they did like have discussions with the voice actress for Asuka at that point about what they thought she
Oh, just
should
that final
say,
line? Yeah.
Because what they said or what they had written down originally she didn't like, or somebody didn't think it sounded like.
I think she said that she didn't think that it sounded
that's
like
what
Asuka
she would say.
Yeah.
And then he asks her, like, well, if somebody came into your room at night, a stranger you didn't know, and just jerked off over on top of you, and you woke up, what would be the thing that you said? And she just looks and just goes, disgusting.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's getting off pretty light. But no, what's the alternate scene?
So it's a similar scene. They're both featured on the beach. The first one, I think I might get mixed up which one is A and which one is B.
I can tell you which one I saw. When you have to.
But the first one was that Shinji is obviously still the first one that comes out of the ocean of LCL. But it's made more clear that he's been there for a while because he's the one that puts up all of the crosses and the graves for like his friends and family and stuff, and even names them. In the original version, they each had names on them, like Masato and Rei and Asuka and everyone. And nails down Masato's cross onto her grave because we see that specific head grave on without her name in the ending because we see the one with the cross necklace that she gave him. And so it's clearly some time has passed. And then at some point, instead of just Asuka materializing, she comes out of the ocean. And then at whatever point, like they collapse on the ground. And then that's when Shinji turns and sees the Rei head or whatever out in the ocean.
Yeah.
And
half Rei head. That's
actually, I can't remember B right now, but I was just curious if you had seen either of those because it gives a little more of a hint of what's going on because the ending is left fairly ambiguous.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
And like people were like, well, why did he start choking her and stuff? And it's shown more that the reason he does
I forgot about that.
It's
And
more that he
she
does
like
it to prove to himself that she's real and that this isn't something.
he's just
that
mad at like a trick or something. You think?
No, he starts choking her because, like, again, he's been alone on this beach for
Who knows
however
how
long, hours or days.
Yeah,
And,
whatever.
again, long enough to go and find scrap to put up these graves for all
and then
these
she
people.
like strokes his chin for
Yeah, which shows some sort of progress on her part that instead of what would have in the past been just like a fucking punch him in the face or something and
But
get
then
the fuck
in
off of me.
classic fucking Shinji, he starts crying, and then that's when she's just like, this fucking guy, the same shit as always, disgusting, pathetic.
But I think that's almost more playful. Like,
Dude,
obviously she's out of it.
Her face.
She just woke up for the first time after all the mind fucking that she'd gone through over the last
because she's like
events.
when Shinji's choking her, it kind of like wakes her up.
Yeah.
And then afterward, the face that she looks at him with is very, ugh, this guy.
Yeah.
It's pretty it's a disgusted face. Like, I can't believe this is what I'm left with.
It seems to hint that, like what Rey ends up saying, that anyone that wants to come back can if they
just
have the
need
will.
the will. Yeah. Because everybody's soul is back
Together.
in the
It's just-
primordial
they
soup,
just
in
need
the
it.
ooze.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, anyway, I think that's going to wrap it up for this week of the Absent Minded podcast. You guys want to have any closing statements? Want to bring it back to the brighter side of things, maybe?
Go watch Evangelion and take some Xanax first.
Yeah, it's really good.
or some Valium.
Maybe
or
after?
Not Xanax or Valium, I meant the show.
any antidepressants you might have on hand.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as always, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Absent Mind Podcast, Absent Minded, just all versions of that. Just search it and you'll find us.
No, not all versions.
Yeah, just search Absent Minded.
We've got it tagged correctly in
You're
the
right.
descriptions on
You're
your
right, we do.
podcasts. Of course, if you find us on Facebook, we have links to all these platforms there. You can follow us each individually. That information is all available. And then also, make sure that you follow the podcast, you give us a like, or
Download us,
eventually a review
listen.
on Apple Podcasts when we're up on there. Just because when you do that, your friends see it. Big data and Google's algorithm are in the background pulling the strings,
It
and
matters.
they know who to
what?
show it to
Tell your
based on
friends
that.
too. Yeah, just spread us around. If you even
Like
if you
a nice-
don't
like a nice
particularly
mayo or a
like
mustard.
what you listen, maybe you have a friend that will, or you know somebody that likes us, that likes our content.
Spread the love, baby.
Yeah,
Spread the love.
Let's be honest, though. We know everyone's enjoying it. We know you'll like it.
I'm enjoying.
If you're 4 episodes in, you're in.
Yeah.
Travis, plug yourself out.
Plug myself out.
Yeah, come on.
I don't like the
I'm
way you
plugging
phrase
me?
that.
I just plugged everything. Find me at Ray Charlizard. Ethan says you know how to pronounce that and how it's spelled.
Yeah,
He
Ray
says my name's good.
Charlizard. It's a very good gamer tag. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Andrew, what about you?
Follow me at Andrew Loves Video Games. Quick shout out. Go listen to the song Drunk 2 by Mannequin Pussy because it's fantastic.
It was okay. He played
It's
it when we
great.
came over.
It's
fine.
great.
And hopefully we'll be doing maybe some Twitch stuff, Drew. You like to mess around with that.
He still hasn't
Well,
fucking
we're-
streamed.
I'm just
I'm not
trying
saying
to
to
get
do
test
bad on you.
streams
We're
coming
still
soon.
Still some technical issues going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, man. I just got the capture card for a few weeks. It's still choppy.
I just
trying to
had
figure
the
something
capture
out.
card for a few weeks. But anyway, you can follow me also, Soulsbjorn, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, all those new places that I'm still not really doing very much.
Oh, Grandpa Ethan.
Oh, Grandpa.
Yeah, how's the Twitter coming? You've had a couple days. How many more followers you get?
Still, I think at 3 followers, but I haven't done anything.
I'm going to unfollow our Twitter just to make it even harder for you.
That's not.
I'm just kidding. Follow us.
That's not helpful.
Yeah, we're kind of sort of having a little internal competition.
No, we're not.
For who can get the most followers between the Instagram account and the Twitter account.
Ethan's about 18 behind.
If you
I am a lot. But those are most of our like personal friends on the Instagram.
I'm just saying, if you like my sultry voice,
you're
gonna want to
one
subscribe
thing
to the
we can tag our friends and they'll respond. You
Sure.
can't tag IGN and expect them to respond.
No, I can at kind of funny though, and hopefully they.
No, they won't.
I didn't say they will. I just said hopefully. Jesus.
I hope Ethan's 4th follower is IGN.
We just become best friends. Just Ethan and IGN on the
Hey,
weekends.
it's me and Mr. IGN going out for a drink.
All right, guys. I hope you had a good listen to the podcast. That was Evangelion, and go watch it on Netflix or wherever.
We love you. Bye.
Have a good week.
Saun koku naten shino yononi shounen no shiri wa inara.
Were you planning on doing that the whole time, or you just fucking wing that?
Goodbye, everyone.